make mistakes, but sometimes the stakes feel just a little bit higher. But any image expert will tell you it's how you bounce back from a misstep that matters most. That always sounds good, maybe not in the moment. So whether it's an awkward conversation or a public moment that flopped, how can you make that comeback no matter what the mistake or the setting? Joining me is Carmen Rasmusen Herbert, a former American Idol contestant. She has been in the spotlight. She knows the big stage pressure. Now a mom and columnist for the Deseret News. She's sharing what she's learned about comebacks and second chances. This is a big topic, and I love it because it applies to women of all ages and stages of life, no matter if you're on the stage, as you have spent a lot of your, adult life, or whether you're just in those day-to-day interpersonal, conversations. Things can trip up fast.
Things can trip up fast, and you can make mistakes and be like, why did I say that? But the biggest thing, I think, is to not beat yourself up about it, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does things and says things that they shouldn't have. And the biggest thing is resilience, coming back and being like, you know what, I'm sorry I messed up, but it's not the end of the world.
Everybody loves a good comeback story, right?
Everyone loves a good comeback.
Even more than a first hero success story. But it seems in this day and age of social media, right, the stage does feel bigger than usual in almost every situation.
And people are ready to pounce. People love it when people mess up. And it's like they're just waiting for someone to flub and do something wrong. So the biggest thing is to just stay positive and say this, even if it's in a very public setting, like on stage, or if it's just an interaction with a friend that you said something that you shouldn't have, to apologize and then not dwell on it. I think that's the biggest thing. When you think about it a lot, when you bring it up a lot, remember when I did that, remember when I said that, oh, remember when I messed up that note, to not think about that as much, because it's going to happen. It's going to. So just expect the best, but plan for the worst.
I love that. And it plays, doesn't it, over and over in our own minds, more than it ever would in anyone else's.
And chances are that person has forgotten all about it. Or, if you flub on stage or forget the words, now they're on to the next person that's doing something wrong. So it's never as big a deal as we make it seem, even when it is a big deal.
I know one of the situations that prompted this topic, as you wrote about it for the Deseret News, and now we're discussing it today, was that Mariah Carey performance on New Year's Eve. What was interesting about that, and I'm not up to speed on really entertainment news necessarily. I'm not a huge Mariah Carey fan, but she seemed to get over it and move on pretty quickly. It was the media that tried to, milk it for more.
Oh, social media loves to milk it. They love to bring it up and look how awful this was. But it broke my heart, really, because it's a ton of pressure performing and singing on stage and putting yourself out there for people to judge. That's a really tough thing. And I felt really bad when she forgot her words and she was lip syncing and her track didn't play. And you could just tell, but in her instance, in a rare instance for Mariah Carey, she didn't bounce back right away. She sat there and was worried and nervous, and she totally struggled. And compare that to Idina Menzel when she was at the New Year's Eve party a few years before that, and she sang and totally missed a high note, and she came back and said, oh, it was live and it was cold weather, but then she came back and she did an amazing performance at the Grammys, and she was on Dancing with the Stars, and she addressed it when she was a guest judge, and she said, hey, I made this really bad mistake, but here I am, and I'm still doing stuff, and I'm promoting my film Beaches and whatever else. It's like I'm not, my career's not over because I messed up.
How do you know? Is there a way to gauge in the moment whether you should address the mistake right then and there, right? Acknowledge your human flaw, have a good attitude about it, or should you try to smooth it over? How do you as a performer? Well,
if I'm singing, you act like, performing 101 is you act like nothing's wrong. Nothing happened, everything's fine, the show goes on, and then afterwards you say, man, that was tough because of this and this. But if you're like a host, like comedian Steve Harvey, when he announced the Miss Universe,
you gotta fix that one.
Actually, it's someone else. Then in that moment he's like, okay, and then the next year he came back and he's like, I'm back, and he made a joke about it and made it funny and made it lighthearted. So I think that's the way to do it. If you're performing, you move on. But if you're with a friend or something and you say something wrong, or you accidentally, address a topic that's sensitive that they felt uncomfortable talking about, whatever, you say, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up, I apologize. And then you move on and you don't think about it anymore and you don't dwell on it anymore.
Call it what it is.
Call it what it is.
I've found too, a lot of times when the public spotlight is on you, if I'm emceeing or hosting or introducing someone to sing and I forget her husband singing with her and I don't say his name. That happened a month ago with this beautiful young lady. Anyway, but I find that it's just a reminder that you're in control, and people feed off your attitude. You talked about the good attitude. If you're just confident and matter of fact and have that positive face forward, they're going to have that same reaction in most cases.
Totally. Attitude is everything. And I think about Jimmy Fallon a lot because his show's live, and when he does does it, so many things can happen on the Tonight Show, and there's a lot of times that the guest isn't very interactive, or the set isn't set up right, and he's always laughing it off, and you just feel like you're in control, so we're in control. Like, we feel good because you feel good. So attitude is everything. Having a positive attitude. Like, if Mariah Carey would have been like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy, and then would have gone on and been smiling and interacting, but instead, when she felt uncomfortable, we all felt uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can totally feed off of other people's emotions.
Quickly, now you're taking your expertise and talent to a younger audience. You work with kids all the time. What are your words to them on their level as you coach them through these mistakes and these comeback opportunities?
It's totally okay to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because then you won't try. So don't worry about messing up. Don't worry about forgetting your words, but always act like, no big deal, I got this, it's okay, I can move on, because if you don't care, nobody else will care either.
And in some ways you have to detach yourself from the performance.
Totally.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
Mistakes happen. Carmen, thank you. We love your perspective. You can get more of this beautiful woman's perspective every week in the Deseret News. Her columns are published on Friday. We often share them on our Facebook page because your insight's that great. So thank you so much.